Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us today. Just moments ago, the Supreme Court giving President Trump their permission, allowing him to do what he was going to do anyway because he knew he was allowed to do it, to go ahead and continue to move forward with plans to slash the federal workforce and to dismantle federal agencies. This is all part of what was, I guess, formerly known as Doge. I'm not sure if it's still called Doge with Elon Musk on the outs. But injunction after injunction, rogue judge after rogue judge coming in and trying to stop President Trump's agenda. As we see, it's just not working. The Supreme Court last week told us that these rogue judges have got to stop and they're not allowed to do what they've been doing. Today, we reaffirm. Notice every single court that case that has been brought under an injunction by these people that's made it to the Supreme Court has ruled in President Trump's favor. And I've said this before, the deep state, these rogue judges, these Marxist leftists are losing to a man named Stephen Miller, a man who's not even an attorney. So they should really be embarrassed with themselves. Some other news of the day, President Trump holding a cabinet meeting earlier today, Pam Bondi, of course, in attendance. I wish this was something we didn't have to keep talking about, but I feel the need it is because nothing is being done about it. Pam Bondi addressing what she had said about her 10,000 documents. We have a little side-by-side from you, for you guys, of Pam Bondi back in March, saying the FBI was reviewing through those 10,000 plus images and videos. And then Pam Bondi today just brushing it off. Take a listen. The first clip is from back in March.
There are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. And there are hundreds of victims. And no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein.
Just brushed it off. Oh, yeah, it's just child porn. It's nothing too crazy. The thing that I continue to say, and the thing that continues to boggle me and boggle my mind, and that keeps me up at night, is knowing that there's only one person sitting in jail as a result of Jeffrey Epstein's doings. Ghislaine Maxwell, his pimp. The only person sitting in jail. So that means 10,000 hours, thousands and thousands of hours, whatever that person said, Pam Bondi said, hasn't resulted in any criminal findings for anybody but Jeffrey Epstein. I find that impossible to believe. And I think the American people find it impossible to believe, which is why we're not shutting up about this. How is it possible that nobody has been brought to the knees of justice? Jeffrey Epstein's now dead, so he can't be. Still unclear how he died. The Department of Justice tells us he hung himself. I don't think anybody believes that either. So what are we to believe here when you have one person rotting in jail who will be out before she's dead, in Ghislaine Maxwell? Back in May, Congressman James Comer was on with Benny Johnson, and he had said he believed that these files that she spoke about were non-existent and they were all deleted. Take a listen.
What's next? I mean, we did a little bit of a preview on the Epstein files. Obviously, that's like finding a unicorn in Washington, D.C. You have come on and talked about that on this program, just for the sake of transparency, which is very big for you. And so, in closing, any motion on that, any movement on that? We hear that there's a timeline now.
I hope James has the Epstein files, because I don't think the Department of Justice has them, or at least the Attorney General does not have them, or she would have turned them over. The president ordered them released. The Attorney General ordered them released. We all know they have not been released. And one of my biggest fears that I had, and I expressed this with Kash Patel and a lot of people, Stephen Miller, and a lot of people going into the new administration. I'm like, I hope they're not shredding documents right now. This was a few weeks before the transition. I said, I hope they're not shredding documents, but you all need to go on that first day and try to get all this stuff released, because my fear is from what I've dealt with in investigations and in communication with this deep state apparatus, is they're probably in there shredding documents as we speak. So hopefully someone has a copy of that, and I hope we find out, because our task force has done everything, led by Anna Paulina Luna. You had her on your show many times. I mean, she's relentless. She's persistent. She's pretty frustrated right now that these files haven't been released, even though the president and the attorney general have ordered them released. But it's like I told Anna the same thing I told Patel and everybody else. I'm like, you assume that somebody in the deep state said, okay, we'll just put these in a file back here, this incriminating evidence on everybody, and maybe the next administration can do whatever they want to do with it. That's unfortunately the way it's supposed to work, but it hasn't worked with this deep state.
So they're just going to let the incriminating evidence sit there smoldering that could put them all in prison.
Yeah,
right?
No, I wish they should. That's what they're supposed to do. But you and I have dealt with them, Benny. You've covered the deep state as well as anyone. I mean, they cover their tracks, and it's just hard for me to believe they're going to leave incriminating evidence. If the government was involved, if the government wasn't involved, I don't think they would have any reason to protect Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton. They're never going to be elected anything again. I don't think they would have any reason to protect Bill Gates or anybody else. The concern I've always had about the Epstein file was the government involved. Did the government know? Was the government using Epstein and the videos to blackmail the most influential people around the world? If that's the case, then they knew there were victims of sex crimes there, and they did nothing. So that's the concern I have. If the government covers this up, I don't believe it's because of any love affair or affection for the Clinton family, just like I never believed they were hiding and covering for the Bidens because they loved Joe Biden. It was because they hated Donald Trump, and they didn't want their agencies to be disrupted. The same thing with the Epstein files. I don't know this, but my concern is that the government may have known a lot more and may have been an
So that was James Comer back at House Oversight Chairman James Comer back in May. And I sat down with James Comer about a month ago in D.C. in his office, and we did about a half-hour interview. And after the interview, I spoke with James Comer for about another half hour, 45 minutes, just he and I. And I know James Comer probably for 3 or 4 years now. Spoke to him many times and got to see him finally in person just about a month ago. And I know him to be an honorable person. I believe him over anybody who has come out and spoken out about this issue. Comer believes, and this is a man who does the investigations. Now, some people are upset that there was nobody arrested, but it's not up to Comer to arrest people. It's up to the Department of Justice. He made the referrals in the Biden cases. Merrick Garland was corrupt as heck, so nobody was getting indicted. That is not on James Comer, and we can't hold his feet to it. He did the best investigation he possibly could. So going back to it, I spoke with Comer in depth about this, both in the interview and after the interview. And I trust him more than I trust Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi has an extremely questionable record that we all know about, whether it be her endorsements of Jeb Bush and the Bush family, whether it be her work in the Epstein case when she was the attorney for Florida. I mean, you can go down the list of things that I think qualify her to be non-trustworthy. What do we got here? We've got some good old Pam Bondi content. June 15th, 2015. Proud to stand with Jeb Bush on this day of his announcement. All in for Jeb. Jeb announcement. Hashtag great day. Big Jeb Bush. Lindsey Graham there, of course. John McCain. I think that tells you who Pam Bondi is and if we can trust her or not. I don't think we can, and at this point, I've lost it. So Comer says there that the documents were deleted, maybe, possibly. And then we go back to that letter that was released yesterday by the FBI and the Department of Justice, in which they say the systematic review revealed no incriminating climate list. There was also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. Yeah. So they found all of that, regardless of what Comer says, regardless of what other people say. Speaking of other people, a former CIA officer, his name is John, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Kiriakou. on Fox News yesterday, had his take on what happened with this investigation.
I'm not blaming the FBI director, Kash Patel, or the deputy director, Dan Bongino. I think that that layer beneath them, that's part of what we like to call the deep state, has taken this bull by the horns, and they've probably destroyed information. Look at what the CIA did in 1975 after Congress ordered that it release all of its files related to an operation called MK Ultra. The director of the CIA went back to headquarters and ordered everything to be destroyed. And in the end, only about 20% of the documents survived. We're still learning about the FBI's operations against Martin Luther King 55 years after the fact. So now we're supposed to believe that everybody's telling the truth, that there were no files, there were no dossiers. I'm sorry, I just don't buy it because I know how these people operate.
So, who deleted the files and what was deleted? Let's go back to what Pam Bondi told us and her denial of what James Comer said about those files being deleted.
No, the FBI, they're reviewing, there are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. And there are hundreds of victims. And no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI is diligently going through that. I haven't seen that statement, but I'll call him later and find out.
You hear her scoff at it when that reporter says files are missing. She gives a little, like it was a joke. 10,000 hours or whatever document she says. That's just child porn. So all the hidden cameras we were told about in Epstein Island, all the hidden cameras in his New York City apartment, all the hidden cameras in his home in Palm Beach, what was on them? It was just Jeffrey Epstein. It was child porn that she says he downloaded. Is anyone believing this? Pam Bondi really thinks we're stupid. The federal government really thinks we're stupid. I just want to know who they're protecting and who's complicit in all this, because for this to be this big of a cover-up, someone is being protected, and I'm not entirely sure who it is. We're going to take a quick break here. On the other side of this quick break, we're going to be joined by my good friend, a man who you all love on this show, one of the smartest people we have on this show, I must say. He goes by the name of Russ Tice. He's a former senior NSA intel analyst and whistleblower. He knows a lot about this, and he knows the inner workings of the CIA, the NSA, and these organizations. I want to get his take on maybe what happened here. I also want to get his take on what we believe right now is a deep state coup to go after Tulsi Gabbard at DNI. What did she do so wrong? We're going to take a quick break here. We're coming back with Russ Tice on the other side of this quick break, folks. Stay with us. There's so much more to come.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. You know, I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupting this commercial to do something I've never done before. Get 2 MyPillows absolutely free on orders of $100 or more. I can't do this forever, so get on board with this great sale today. Our best-selling 6-piece bath towel sets or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Our famous standard MyPillows only $14.98. Queens $18.98. King size only $1 more. Body pillows $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bed sheet sets. Any size, any color. So go to MyPillow.com or call that number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And when you spend $100 or more, get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Thanks for staying with us, folks. As promised, joining us right now, the great Russ Tice. Russ, as always, it's a delight to have you with us. I feel like it should be on better circumstances, but I want to begin with first everything that we found out over the last 48 hours or so. Sunday night, I was getting ready to go to bed, Russ, and the FBI decides they're going to dump these documents, a 2-page document that says, case is closed, Jeffrey Epstein's exonerated. There's no videos of anybody. We don't know of anybody who went to Epstein Island, who did any sort of bad things. All the witness testimony is bullshit. Virginia Giuffre, who happened to die in a car accident just a month ago, it was an accident. Case is closed. There's nothing else to see here. on the Sunday night of the 4th of July weekend. Russ, that smells to high heavens to me. You're the industry professional. Tell me what you gauge from a press release like that on a Sunday night on the July 4th weekend.
Let's think common sense here. If Epstein was just looking at child porn, why would he have hidden cameras all over, I don't know, on Pedo Island and all these other places? What are they for? And you got to think about semantics too. They say, well, Epstein never blackmailed anyone. Well, that may be true, but was Epstein acting as a surrogate for MI6, for the Brits, for Mossad, for the Israelis, and for CIA for the United States, and putting this out for them? He was on the CIA and payroll, and boy, that would go to understand how he came with hundreds of millions of dollars for his elaborate lifestyle. So, Epstein killed himself. Epstein did not kill himself.
He almost had you complicit here, Russ.
Yeah. It's his automatic response, right? So I'm 99.5% sure that that's the case. As an intelligence analyst, looking at all the information, there's no way that he killed himself. I think he was about to sing. When they said, we're going to put you away, he said, oh, yeah, well, I'm going to tell the whole truth about everybody I was working for, CIA, Mossad, whoever. You have the guy down in Florida beforehand when he got a slap on the wrist conviction, and the prosecutor in Florida said, hey, I was told to take it easy on him because he was part of the intel community. Yep. It's already there. What's going on here? Now, do I think this FBI and the intel community, and along with the deep state, like the day after President Trump got elected in early November, didn't start shredding and burning and everything, chomping everything that they had? Oh yeah, I think they did. Yeah, every bit of it. And as John Carrical just mentioned in your lead in there, he's a CIA guy. He knows what they did. Even back during the Church Committee, President Ford okayed NSA to start spying on the congressman and the Church Committee and Senator Church himself, and the NSA put a human indicator on the documentation as if it came from human sources, which was a total lie. They sent that to the CIA, and then I guess the CIA didn't get all of it, and that human source shows up when it was clearly an NSA wired domestic tap on the Church Committee and Senator Church himself. So yes, they will try to do, like any criminal. These are criminal acts, and a criminal will try to get rid of all the evidence so he doesn't get caught. This is just common sense what a criminal's going to do, and these people are criminals. And I would certainly like to see the criminals in jail where they belong. Now, as far as these reports today, maybe Kash Patel and Dan Bongino were telling the truth. Maybe they were so good at wiping all the evidence out, tangible, that they had with the FBI. Maybe NSA was involved in making sure they wiped out, because they're the only agency that can literally wipe out everything electronically. And the CIA got rid of all their stuff. And the only thing that the FBI director has now is maybe some ashes on the floor. So the next question is, do they not know because there's no evidence? Do they not know because they don't want to know? Yeah. Hey, I don't know. I don't want to know. We have no evidence. We found nothing. Maybe because we didn't look. And the other question is, do they know and they're lying? I think those are your three options.
Let's go.
So which one is it? I don't know. I tend to think no matter how you try to hide something, you're going to have vestiges of that activity that you're going to find on maybe a floppy drive or a thumb drive or. Well,
how about witnesses, Russ? How about the FBI agents who raided that apartment? How about the feds who raided that apartment? How about the local police officers who raided that apartment in New York City? How about the one that they raided in Florida? How about the one that they raided in Florida back in 2000, in the early 2000s? before this thing went federal and it was just Florida. When you mentioned Alex Azar was in charge on there. How about the ones on Epstein's Island? How about the ones in New Mexico? There's people, Russ, there's human people who went in and took evidence. There's people who went in and saw evidence. The other thing is if this is so bad and this is such a weak case, why is Jeffrey Epstein committing suicide? This is a man who died with a net worth of around, they estimate, $500 to $600 million. So that tells me, as I said on yesterday's show, Russ, that's a man who's going to be defended very well in court. O.J. Simpson got off with something we all know he did. I think he admitted it on his deathbed that he did it. So this is a man who is going to be very heavily defended, okay? If he was an agent of Mossad or an MI6 or the CIA, he probably knew in the back of his mind, this is a smart man, an evil man, but a smart man, that there was no way he was going to be convicted because of all that would come out and he would start singing and a deal was going to be made. So why does a man like that kill himself? If he's going to kill himself, why doesn't he wait until he's found guilty where he knows he's spending 5 years in jail, 10 years in jail, or the rest of his life in jail? Things don't add up here, Russ.
And supposedly just before his death, he was quite cheerful about how he thought he was going to get off on this. Probably because he thought he was going to use what he had against the government, and the government was going to let him off the hook again, like he got off basically in Florida. Everything points to the fact that he was working for the intel services, our own and a couple overseas, especially the amount of money he had.
Now, what would a man, Russ, I don't mean to cut you off. What would a man like him be doing? What have you seen people like this? Have you worked with people like this in your years in the intel agencies, plants, and things like this? If you have, what would you believe that Epstein's job would be as a plant?
Well, I worked a lot with the CIA, and especially when I was in Langley, I used to go out to the smoking area. Although I don't smoke, I take a pipe with me, and I wouldn't light it up. I just went out there to listen to folks smoking out there because that's where you get all the good gossip. And people would ask, I'd say I'm from NSA or DIA, and they'd say, oh, well, what do you work? I say, well, I work on black programs. I'm not. Well, as soon as they hear that I can't tell them about something, they have to say, oh my goodness, well, you know what? I work in something really important too, and this is how important. So I would learn things from DIA and all the different agencies I'd work with. It was kind of something I used to kind of do, just to hang out in the smoking area a little bit, and I would had contacts all over. I made sure I got rid of those contacts very quickly when I thought NSA had an inkling that I might know what they did. So I literally tore out a third of my Rolodex contacts to make sure they didn't know I know these people. But yes, the CIA and I was involved tangentially because I would work the comms for some of these things that were going on overseas for the satellites. So they would always have to come to me to deconflict to make sure we weren't stepping on each other's toes for whatever's going on. Was I read into them? No, but I could certainly kind of figure out something was going on when during that time frame I found out here in the news that some guy got whacked, this place or that place. And I'm going, gee, that's right about the time they asked me to do something for them with their comms. So it wasn't hard for me to figure out these things. Yes, so we whack people. As far as Epstein, here's something I haven't said. I'll say it right now. The CIA is big into the drugs. They have a drug that can basically anesthetize someone to the point where all their bodily functions are working, but they can't, they can't realize, they can't move their motor functions as far as their arm or whatever. So you can put a rope around their neck, you can drown them, you can push them off a building. The cause of death will be drowning. It'll be by hanging. It'll be, and Epstein, I think they literally choked him. They used a Garrett and choked him to death. But, so it'll be that, but the cause of death or off a building, sudden impact. And the remnants of that drug, they very quickly leave the body. You would have to have a very, very delicate capability with toxicology to be able to pick that out of the blood. And in many cases, like the shooter on the roof, the first shooter that came after President Trump, they certainly got rid of the blood off the roof, and they cremated his body very quickly to make sure that toxicology didn't happen. because I think he was drugged up by the CIA as well. So, it's easy to kill someone, and all the other things, all those other things that don't make sense. The film was probably manipulated. There's a 1 minute or plus, a 1 minute 2 second gap in the film as it is. You can freeze a frame on a camera and make the clock still run so that you see the same frame, but then you lower what's going on in the underneath being recorded. That can be done as well. So, and I'll bet you another thing. I'll bet you the 2 guards and the warden that were in that prison are doing quite well for themselves right now. New homes, they're being taken care of, and they know if they open their mouths, they're going to be dead. So,
yeah, that whole story changed too. It was like they fell asleep and this and that, and the camera footage was non-existent. Then all of a sudden it appeared. It's like people aren't asking these questions. I go sit on Twitter all day long, and it's probably not good for my mental health, but all these people who are like kissing the rear ends of Pam Bondi and this person and that person are just dead silent on Twitter right now. And I call it out for what it is. And you know what? I probably lose audience over it, but that's fine because I'm here to report the news, not make friends. Obviously, I love having an audience, and they love me if they tune in. But I'm not on the side of right and left, Russ. I'm on the side of right and wrong. And I report what it is, regardless of what it is. And that was the same standard that Lou Dobbs had. And it's the same standard that I'm going to keep the rest of my life. I'm not going to sit here and defend somebody because they agree with me politically. That wouldn't be very American of me. It wouldn't be very human of me. But there are people out there who are like that. Going back to Jeffrey Epstein, what do you believe his job would have been on behalf of the CIA or MI6 or Mossad?
To facilitate having very influential people come to his facilities to engage in buggering these little girls, and then ultimately blackmailing them for whatever the whether it be money to support programs. The CIA has been used have reached out to other sources of income many times where they didn't have to go into the government till. So especially if you're getting money from a billionaire because you can basically blackmail them, then you have money to do all kinds of other illicit things. So to me, when they said, think about the semantics, Epstein did not blackmail anyone. Well, okay. Was he the go-between between intelligence agencies that were blackmailing people? And I would say that is the most, as John Caracal also agrees, apparently, that is the most likely scenario here, that he was part of the intel community. He was the surrogate for them to find these guys that were into messing with these young girls and then using it against them.
Michael Bodden, who's done, he's a pathologist and a doctor. He's done over 1,000 autopsies. Has come out after Epstein was killed. He was there for Epstein's autopsy on behalf of Epstein's brother, Jeffrey Epstein's brother, and said that the 3 broken bones in Epstein's neck were inconsistent with something with what he's seen his entire career. He's never seen it in his entire life. All the abnormalities already surrounding his death. Suicide watch, being allowed to be in there with a CPAP machine with cords, killed himself with pretty much the sheet, the thickness of a bandana. I mean, you go down the list of things that just don't smell right. And this man says he doesn't believe, died that way, and it didn't, put it out anything further, but doesn't believe it. Do you think this is truly case closed, as Pam Bondi says, or do you think the pressure stays on?
Well, it depends. She's now the power that be. Does President Trump, is he in the dark about this? Is the deep state involved in this one too? I had no idea that Miss Bondi was basically a Bush supporter and the guy out there in Arizona. Those are neocons. That's the neocon agenda. So I'm kind of suspicious about Miss Bondi right now. I kind of wonder, I kind of think Kash Patel is, especially with what happened to him, I don't think that he would just turn a blind eye. And the same thing with Bongino. So
Bongino, I got to be totally honest, Russ. I've worked with him at Fox. I never trusted Bongino. I can't say I really liked him. There was always just something off about him. Yesterday we rolled a bunch of clips, and I know Cash very well. I've known him for a very long time. I go back and forth on where I am with him, and I pray what you're saying is factual and that he's not complicit in this, because like you said, everything that's happened to Cash, I hope this is just them keeping it for him, which doesn't sound good me saying that, but just for my own sanity, that Cash is not a bad man, because I don't think he is. Bondi, people want to talk about Tucker Carlson and being a Qatari agent and this and that, paid by Qatar. Why don't they go look at Pam Bondi and her lobbying for Qatar just before becoming the Attorney General of the United States? Everyone wants to point fingers. Why don't we look at that? Big Bush woman, an establishment Republican who I don't believe should have ever been there in the first place. I believe this was all part of the deep state's plan to push Matt Gaetz to become the Attorney General, and knowing that he would never get confirmed by the Senate, and then it gave them an easy way out. Well, we need someone who's very easily confirmable. No, it's Pam Bondi, because she's an agent of just about everybody, Russ.
Well, Dan Bongino, I'll give you a heads up. I reached out to him 3 years ago to let him know that I believe the deep state would try to assassinate President Trump. And he basically didn't believe me and kind of basically blew me off.
Because he knows it all.
So that, and I tried to go through his producer, who was here in Maryland, and I had lunch with him several times to try to convince through his producer to talk to Dan, who would not meet with me, by the way. I said, look, I'll fly down there to Florida on my own dime, and I'll tell you a whole lot of reasons why I think this is going to happen. It's going to come from our deep state and our intelligence community, and I was going to tell them how it would probably happen. There would be at least one or more inside men at the Secret Service. And I
still have these emails, by the way, Russ?
Pardon?
Do you still have these emails?
I do. Yeah, sure.
If you want to share them, I'd be happy to have you back on another. I mean, I'm always happy to have you on, but I'd love to lay it all out there for the people, because transparency is what we need. Go on. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'm not sure I feel comfortable about releasing emails to someone who, even though I think it's a just thing to do without Dan's permission, but
we're not.
Let me think about that. But yeah, Dan blew me off because I think, remember, NSA said I was crazy. So this guy's looking up there and said, oh, NSA says this guy's crazy. So Bongino's looking at this going, well, maybe Tice is crazy. He's thinking, oh, my brethren at the Secret Service would never be involved in such a thing. Yeah. And so he probably had in his mind reason to think that I was a little nuts and that there wasn't validity to this. Because I was trying to get him to get in touch with his friends at the Secret Service to get word to President Trump and to what to look out for, because I was pretty sure they were going to try to assassinate President Trump at that time.
Yeah.
Once I was totally getting blown off by Dan, trying over and over again. I finally went to another guy. His name was Lou Dobbs. And Lou Dobbs, I was on vacation, I think, and I had a message from him, and sure enough, it was Lou Dobbs, and it wasn't long before I was talking to Lou Dobbs quite a bit over the phone, and then he said, "I want to have you on air," and then that's when I started with Lou, and I was hoping, because I believed that Lou Dobbs had the ear of the president, and that Lou would get in touch with the President Trump and let him know that this intel guy believed that the deep state and the intel community and even a couple insiders in the Secret Service would be involved in this. Now, I don't know whether Lou did or did not talk to the president about this, and if he did, whether the president said, "Well, I don't believe that either." Who's this guy, Russ Tice? I don't know. I'd have to talk to the president, and I've never met the man to discuss it with him. But I was quite sure.
Lou told you he did it. He did. Lou was a man of his word. I don't know if he told you he did get a chance to, but if he told you he did, he did. Lou's was always a man of his word. I know that to be a fact. I know the man for a very long time. It was an honor to know him.
But Bongino was naive. I think Bongino's grown up.
Well, like I said, Russ, he knows it all, right? He's one of those guys who can't be taught anything. And you know what the crazy thing Lou used to, I'll tell you a quick story just between you and I. Lou used to joke with me and he'd say, he would tell me to do something and I'd tell him I already did it or I did it a different way than he told me. And he'd get mad at me. He'd go, you know what the problem with you is, John? You know what the problem with a 30-year-old guy who thinks he's a finished product? And he would tell me that. He goes, that's the problem. You're a 30-year-old guy who thinks you're a finished product. That's a effing problem, is what he would tell me. And I would joke with Lou. I go, you know what there's a problem, Lou? A 77-year-old man who thinks he's a finished product. And he would die laughing, man, because we'd go back and forth with each other like that. But he's absolutely right. And you know what? Russ, to his dying day, Lou was still learning. Everything we did in this podcast business, he and I came into it, we knew nothing about it. He wanted to learn every aspect of it. As whenever we got into it, a 75-year-old man, he said, everything you learn, I want you to teach me. He was a man who sat there and he listened. He was not one who sat in a room and commanded that everyone listen to him because he knows everything. He never pretended like he did, and he knew he didn't because none of us do. And he was a man who sat there and listened, and that was his greatest trait, Russ. He sat there, he listened, and he knew that no matter how old you are, you're always learning. And that's Dan Bongino's problem is he thinks he knows everything.
Well, Lou would call me up, and we talked for an hour or more, and he said, look, I'm lacking in the intel world. Tell me everything I can, sponge. And we talked a lot about space, too, because he loves space.
Yeah.
But, he was like a 5-year-old. They're sponges just soaking up everything. Yep. I think Dan Bongino was suffering with a little bit of the cop syndrome of the arrogant cop syndrome. I think he's realized that he doesn't know as much as he thought he knew. But so he's sort of like Cassius Patel's junkyard dog right now. So. And I think that's a good role for him. But, hopefully the president got the word. But, the problem was it would have been there's always an inside man when there's assassination. There's always at least one inside man. So and the CIA, we do assassinations. It's that simple. And I know that.
Oh, God, it scares the heck out of me. Lou listened, and you're absolutely right. I'm not exaggerating. Up until his dying day, Lou and I would speak on the phone, Russ, probably for collectively 3 or 4 hours a day. We'd talk every morning for about an hour and a half. We'd talk every night after the show for about an hour and a half. That's 3 hours there. And we'd speak somewhere in the middle of the day for an hour, 4 or 5 hours a day. I got to meet some of his kids for the first time after he passed away. And I introduced myself, and they said, no, we know exactly who you are. You're like Lou's other son, and we'd all joke that I was one of his children because we were so close. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about him. I think about him every morning when I wake up. I think about him every night when I go to sleep. And in 10 days, it's going to be the anniversary, 1 year of his passing. Yeah. I'm dreading it, thinking about it. But to think that it's been a year long since I started on this journey, a few years since Lou and I started on it. It's crazy to me to think, and it doesn't feel like it's been a year. I still have voicemails that make me cry on my phone that, Lou would leave me. And I can't even go look at them. I can't even go look at pictures of him and I because it just kills me. But
I have one voice message that's still in my recorder. I tell my wife, do not erase Lou Dobbs' message because every now and then I like to hear his voice. And I'm very sorry. I never got to meet him in person. That time at CPAC a couple of years ago that had that little snafu with the security thing. I was hoping to get to meet him then, but of course I had no idea that we wouldn't have him.
None of us did, Russ, and that's why I tell everyone every day. I just got a word this morning. One of my buddies I spoke with yesterday passed away. I still don't know the details of it, but it's every day you don't know what's going to happen. And my time with Lou was I was told a day before what was happening. So it's you never get to mentally prepare, and that's the worst part about it. I've had grandparents die, and it's happening, right? So you have time to mentally prepare for it. But when you're told a day or two before, this is it, you never get your mind around it because you never get to say what you had to say and, what you wanted to say. And I joke with Deb, Lou's wife, all the time that there's so many things that I can't wait till I get up to heaven, hopefully with Lou one day, because he told me, I can't tell you how many things he'd say. I'll tell you one day. I'd ask him about something top secret or whatever. And he said, I'll tell you about it one day. And, that's the only thing I could be mad about him is he never got to tell me all those things he was going to tell me.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bed sheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Russ, let's move on to something you had sent me last week. And I'm not going to read your whole email out. I'm just going to read a quick part of it to let the audience know where we're going. But it's in regard to an article out, the Conservative Treehouse, which does a very good job. A dangerous moment, the targeting of Tulsi Gabbard. And what you had said to me was, well, I've mentioned many times that Miss Gabbard is not qualified in the intel field to do the job, meaning she's a neophyte of the DNI. Without the backup of the people in the IC and its pitfalls, she's proven to be all in on working to protect President Trump from the very IC vipers that backstabbed him in his last stint. So this article goes into, and I recommend everyone go read it, A Dangerous Moment, the Targeting of Tulsi Gabbard. It's from last month in the Conservative Treehouse. But they go into this whole thing, Russ, and this is something you have said from very early on, that Tulsi may be faced with some issues, and you were hesitant to trust her, but now it seems that you're all in on her, as a lot of people I know who know her are. Tell us what's going on with Tulsi Gabbard and the deep state.
Well, she came out with that national intelligence estimate that basically said that the Iranians didn't have the were not enriching uranium to the point of making nuclear weapons. Now, I know immediately when I heard that was incorrect. Now, if she had the right people, lieutenants underneath her, they would have said, "This is bullcrap, Tulsi, and someone's feeding you a line of, they're blowing smoke up your rear," as I like to use a euphemism there. But she didn't know that, and I think she was being set up. Now, who controls a national intelligence estimate? Normally, it's an all-source thing. Sources come from SIGINT. And my background, and because I was part of many NIEs where they would come to me and I put in my piece of the pie, and then it would come from all the different different elements, and it would get put together and on different countries and different elements and different threats and that sort of thing. So, but the people that put it all together and packaged it up was the CIA. Now, when the Director of National Intelligence was first created, there was a huge tiff between the CIA director and the new NDI, because the CIA director is now being second fiddle, right? It's like, okay, you're not the big boss anymore. It's now the National Director of Intelligence. Well, they didn't like that at all. Huge little battles going on between there. It used to be the CIA and the FBI hate each other's guts. I think that enmity is still there a little bit, but then all of a sudden, after 9/11, there was a kumbaya, NSA, CIA, DIA, FBI. They all got together and they say, let's work together and be part of the deep state and make sure that we can blackmail everybody in Congress so that we can get every dime we want and then some. And we talked about that because I know NSA was blackmailing all these people after after targeting all their comms, the Congress, the Supreme Court, a whole, the press, whole bunch of people. So, and to this day, I don't think they've ever seriously looked at the intel budget. They just pass it by or say, how much more would you like? So, but I think I do not trust Ratcliffe. I think he's a deep state neoconner, and I would not trust him as far as I could throw him. And I think right now, I think he was involved in setting up Tulsi Gabbard with that NIE, and she was too inexperienced to understand that they were setting her up to slice her throat. So that's my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's and the way I understand the background and all those little infighting things. Now, because of that, because the deep state and the neocons are after Tulsi, I immediately say we need Tulsi. Even she's not the most experienced gal out there in the intel field. To me, if they're after her, I'm going to put her on a pedestal, and we need her. But she just needs to have the right people so that she can't be set up like that in the future.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I know a lot of people know Tulsi. I've met her once or twice before, when she was a congresswoman, before she was in this role. But yeah, I guess that could be the back. She's essentially John Ratcliffe's boss, no?
That's correct.
So maybe he wants that job.
I don't think he likes it.
What, the CIA job?
I don't think he likes the fact that he's second fiddle to Tulsi. Now, remember, he used to be, if I recall, he was the chairman of the House Intel Committee a few years back. I'm pretty sure that was his. Wasn't he Intel? And he was also
Nunes was as well.
He was also the DNI briefly.
Yes.
Under President Trump, but and before that, ambassador somewhere or another, something like that. But he's I think he's entrenched with the deep state and the neocons and the cabal of the intelligence community. I wouldn't trust Ratcliffe as far as I could throw him.
So how do you think this plays out for Tulsi? Do you think she pushes through and she's able to fight and weather the storm? She's got something I was reading about earlier this morning. It's a new, I guess it's to prevent leaks. I'll just read the article from The Independent. A team created by Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has sought mass amounts of internal emails and chat logs from top U.S. spy agencies in an effort to use AI tools for screen for government employees opposing the Trump administration agenda. That's how The Independent writes it. For me, I read that as this is Tulsi Gabbard trying to get a hold of the leakers.
That's a smart move, and it probably is. So whoever's doing that is, so matter of fact, that's something I would do too, is I go back and I'd look at all the government communications. Now, you can't look at someone's private communications unless you have probable cause. Of course, NSA doesn't matter. NSA collects every bit of communications on everybody anyhow. And, I hear all this stuff. If we only knew what Obama and Hillary were talking about during Benghazi. Well, NSA has that. They got it. So the NSA can blackmail anybody they want for that in that case. But
is it that easy? Is it that easy to get a hold of somebody's phone line?
Oh yeah. Well, if you're collecting everything, the main thing is to set up the file folder to be able the database to be able to ping into wherever.
So say I work at the NSA right now, Russ, and you're sitting next to me, and I think my girlfriend's cheating on me. I don't have a girlfriend, but I think she's cheating on me. I give you her phone number. How fast can we get a hold of her phone?
Well, the way it worked before is you look for the metadata, and that is like when you used to go to the library, you had the file folders. Remember that?
Yes.
And you look up the catalog of where you find the data. Then you got to go to the shelf where the book is to find the book. Well, the catalog is the metadata, and NSA has been collecting that since about 2004, 2005. In 2013, once that facility there in Bluffdale, Utah was built, that is all the cabinets where the books are, and that's the word for word everything. So they go in, they find the metadata, your phone number's there, then they attach it to a name because they have access to all the different phone companies. and then they go to it's not like they'll say, well, we don't listen to everybody's communications. Well, no, they don't, because it would be impossible to do that. But if you have the mechanics and the automation to collect everything and store it, then you can go back in time and pin out John Fawcett. Okay, do you have a period of time? We want to find out what he said, or do a word search and filter it with words to see what you're saying, and then start looking at you at that point, what you said 10 years ago.
So they have every phone call recorded, is what you're saying?
Yeah, they got everything.
And every American?
Yes. Even I like to use little Jenny is talking to Joni about in their middle school about how cute Johnny is, right? Who cares about that, right? No one does. Even that is going to be recorded. So, and they've lied repeatedly. They've lied. When was I want to say to all these congressmen that you talk to, when was the last time you asked these people from NSA the same question you asked Clapper that he lied about and said, is NSA collecting in any manner and or storing communications domestically and or domestic going international or back again of American citizens without probable cause? And remember Clapper, he's bald head. He starts, you can see the sweat coming down. He's, of course not. We don't do that. We'd have to have, reasonable, suspicion, blah, blah, blah. Is lying through his teeth. Alexander lied through his teeth. Director Hayden, my gosh, he started this all. He would sell his soul for another star on his shoulder, and he did. They're lying. Please, Congress, ask them the question again, and then do the proper investigation, have the right people look at it, and then throw them in jail for lying and for violating the law, which it's still, back then I think it was a $5,000 fine and 5 years in prison for one single case. When you're doing it, $1 billion at a time or something, that's a whole lot of yields in the clink.
Yeah.
So, but of course, everyone is afraid. I think Congress is afraid to ask these questions because they're being blackmailed, or they know they can be blackmailed, because I think half of them are cheating on their spouses, or they have improper, sweetheart land deals, or they're doing inside trading that they shouldn't be doing, or who knows, little stinky little deals that a lot of these congressmen are into. So
I asked when I was there a month ago, ran into Congressman Andy Barr from Kentucky. He sits on House Financial Services and Foreign Affairs, and I said to him, I said, hey, I got to ask you a quick question. Of course, I'm in a rush. I said, what's the deal with the Congressional Slush Fund for sexual harassment and stuff like that? And he goes, well, I have no idea. I don't know anything about that. Bullshit, you don't know anything about that. It's what every member of Congress uses when they get sued for sexual harassment, and they make it go bye-bye. I don't know what the number is, but it's a lot of money spent on it.
And you'll never know about it.
Because it gets put into that budget, and they hide it here and they hide it there. They pull from there and they pull from here.
Because many of them are slime balls. So
yeah, most of them are slime balls. Russ, as always, we go overtime, but I think the audience appreciates it. You get the last word here until next time.
Oh, gee, the last word. What was the main emphasis? I like to remember the main emphasis here. The deep state is still out there, and kicking back. And I'm certainly hoping President Trump is not, being a little complicit with some of this information, thinking that maybe he can use it for his own advantage. Because ultimately, that if he tries to wrangle that snake, the snake will bite him again. So, and it looks like we have some deep staters that are starting to wrap their tangled webs. They're up President Trump's leg again, and we need people that are willing to be in the right spots to spot the vipers, so that President Trump doesn't fall in the same trap he did when during his first term, or Trump 2.1 or 1.2 or whatever it is, 1.1.
No, you're absolutely right, and hopefully it doesn't turn into that, because he's on such a great mission right now. He's got so much going for him in this administration, in this country. It would be a damn shame to have it overthrown by the deep staters once again. Russ, Tice, as always, it's great talking to you. We'll talk to you soon, my friend.
My pleasure.
Folks, thanks to Russ, Tice, and thank you all for being with us today here on The Great America Show. We hope we'll see you back here tomorrow for The Great America Show, where our quest for truth, justice, and the American way continues. I'll meet you back here, same time, same place tomorrow. Until then, may God bless you, may God bless America, and may God bless the great Lou Dobbs. Have a great night, everybody.